welcome back to Behind the Headlines. If you're new here, this channel is about slowing things down and looking at context. And tonight we're actually going to be covering a few things. So we're going to be going over Nas and 21 Savage's new albums, where hip hop is right now, as far as also with the headlines about what President Trump is doing. And also we have some ongoing conversations about the lawsuits involving Rock Nation and Megan Thee Stallion. This is going to be opinion-based commentary and analysis using publicly available information. I'm not here to push narratives. I'm just going to ask questions and connect dots that often get skipped. So if you appreciate the thoughtful breakdowns and follow-ups we're going to be doing over here, go ahead and subscribe. Let's get into everything. So first, I want to get into President Trump. There's been some updates in regards to Venezuela, what's going on over there. Okay. So let me get this open for you guys, my live browser. Perfect. Okay, let's see. Okay, so in Venezuela, as we know, this is where it started. So 8 killed in latest strikes on alleged drug boats, the U.S. military says. So it has carried out strikes on 3 boats. It has accused of trafficking drugs in the Pacific Ocean, killing 8 people. They are in the middle of the ocean, people. And this is covered by BBC.com News. The U.S. Southern Command posted footage of the strikes on social media and said the vessels were transiting along known narco trafficking routes and were engaged in narco trafficking. More than 20 vessels in the Pacific and Caribbean have been targeted in recent months, killing at least 90 people as part of President Donald Trump's escalating campaign against gangs he accuses of transporting drugs in the region. Some experts say the strikes could violate laws governing armed conflict. Okay. So the first attack was on the 2nd of September. It was not 1 but 2 strikes. Okay, it was an attack on the Venezuelan drug boat. So this has happened. Now here's my thing. They shouldn't be bringing those drugs over here in the first place. Keep those drugs over there, right? Feed them to your people. There was a whole epidemic. Remember in the 80s? Our people couldn't go over there and get the drugs. The government was bringing it over here, and they were bringing it over here. They was calling 80s babies, what they say, crack babies. Okay? Keep that stuff over there. So he was blowing up their ships, right? Okay. He has now officially designated fentanyl, the drug most responsible for deadly overdoses in the U.S., as a weapon of mass destruction. Oh, wow. Okay. So next, so we see this here, right? So we're thinking, okay, he's trying to make sure drugs aren't coming over here. Well, so we're receiving a follow-up in regards to the oil assets, okay? So let's see what's going on. We're at MSN Political News here. President Trump demanded Wednesday that Venezuela return assets that it seized from U.S. oil companies years ago, justifying anew his announcement of a blockade against oil tankers traveling to or from the South American country that face American sanctions. How did they get those assets that they seized from the U.S. oil companies? That's interesting. Trump cited the lost U.S. investments in Venezuela when asked about his newest tactic and a pressure campaign against leader Nicolas Maduro, suggesting his administration moves are at least somewhat motivated by disputes over oil investments, along with accusations of drug trafficking. Okay, well, 2 things can be true at the same time. Okay, if you guys are bringing drugs over here, that is wrong. Get it out of here. Your ship's going to be blown up. But if you also seized U.S. oil companies years ago. Now, how did that seize happen? Was that seize legal? That's something interesting to note there. Because if Venezuela seized it legally, then, you can't take something back that they was able to obtain legally. But if they wrongfully seized it, then yeah, 2 things can be true. Y'all needs to give us the assets that y'all seized from us, as well as stop bringing those drugs over here. Okay. Moving along here, we have another update with President Trump. He actually signed an executive order that could reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. This is very important. I know I don't partake in marijuana, but I do know, there are some people that actually do. Um, I believe marijuana does grow from the earth. Um, so I don't see the problem with it being less qualified because, again, when we look at this drug policy here, it's being declassified. So the switch will move marijuana away from its current classification as a Schedule 1 drug alongside heroin and LSD. Now, why is marijuana classified alongside heroin and LSD? Do y'all say heroin or heron? Tomato, tomato. Cannabis would instead be a Schedule 3 substance like ketamine and some anabolic steroids. Now, that should have been in effect. There is no reason why marijuana should be alongside heroin and LSD. That is ridiculous. So, hopefully, that goes into effect. Let's see what else we have. Let's take a look at this Fox News report here. That one's kind of long, so I'm not going to look at that one. Let's see. Trump addresses. Yeah. So, this can be something important here. Trump addresses affordability as Americans remain concerned about economy. Let's see what he says here. Let's see.
Turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last year. The price of eggs is down 82% since March, and everything else is falling rapidly. And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace.
Danielle, throughout the speech, you heard the president go over the facts, but the midterms will come down to how people feel. How soon into 2026 will the American people feel that the economy is improving, and will that feel extend all the way to November when they have to vote in the midterms?
Well, you heard President Trump last night address all of the wins that he's delivered for the American people. It was a great year-end review. We started the year in a complete mess. Of course, Joe Biden had failed our nation, had put us into a big hole. President Trump...
You're ready for college.
A commercial? Okay, well, we'll stop right there. Okay, let me escape and see what else we got here. So, so hopefully that goes well as far as with that update.
Well, 1776 was easy to come up with.
Dividend amount.
Actually, at 1775.
Soldiers.
You know, the number was 1775, and I said, wow, I think we can afford one more dollar. But they came up to me, it was $1,775. So I said,
the warrior dividend that will be given to more than 1.4 million military service members. All right, so hopefully they do get that. We definitely appreciate our troops here. Now moving along. So we actually want to get into Nas because he actually just came out with an album here. He came up with an album with DJ Premier called Light It Up. I had some takeaways from the album. It was more so of a 90s feel. Put you back in that mood. Especially where hip hop is today. It seems like everything is so microwaved and put out fast. So it's a good thing to see Nas put out this album. One of the greatest rappers of all time, of course. Now I did take away, I did notice, as far as he did shout out the female rappers, on his album, but he also has a couple bars in there. And he also spoke about his portfolio. As you know, Nas just got approved for the casino bid. And Jay-Z's bid, of course, was denied, right? But he also says in his song, Get Ready, on this album, my portfolio is many things from quantum computing to biotech, because it's life improving, degradable plastic trash removing. So he's talked a little bit about his investments there, as far as what he has going on I thought that was interesting to put there. He's going more the tech and science route as far as with his investments. So shout out to Nas. Definitely look out for that album. It's on Apple Music. That's where I was able to listen to it. And then we have 21 Savage. He actually just dropped his album as well. There was a couple good ones. I wasn't really a fan of the majority of the songs. I did like the song that he put out with Drake, of course. There was a couple songs on there that I did like. Hopefully, I know that a lot of people were saying that there wasn't really a rollout for him as far as what leads up to the album coming out. It seemed like a spare of a moment project, right? Where no one got a heads up. We didn't see any billboards or any commercials or anything else aligning with the album. So this was the album called What Happened to the Streets. I do definitely like the song he has with Drake called Mystery Coupe on there. So just listen to that and that album as well. I wish it would have been better and he would have took more time on the project. Again, there wasn't really a rollout. It did seem like it was rushed. But I mean, whatever floats your boat, whatever's your thing. But I did want to note, with the album sales, it was a whole big thing. They were saying, 21 Savage is selling, like 59,000 copies less than, allegedly Megan Thee Stallion, who sold, I believe it was like 64,000 copies of her last album. But keep in mind, 21 Savage did not have a rollout, right? This is a spur of a moment. People probably didn't even know he was dropping this album, so to speak. Megan had songs on this album. She was constantly promoting. She was everywhere as far as in commercials, just to still sell 64,000 copies. So we definitely want to keep that in mind. But just listen to the music if you like it. Now, moving along, because I want to get into some dockets here. There is a lot going on. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, you guys, and we're going to get back to it.
Hey guys, if you like what you're hearing, be sure to like and subscribe for more updates to come with us behind the headlines. You can also cash out Janae 148 if you want to support. See you soon.
All right. So what we are going to do, okay, I want to get into these dockets, right? First, I want to get into the updates. So Megan Thee Stallion is being sued by her former cameraman Emilio. And let's take a look at those documents here. Let me go live for you guys. Let's see. Okay, let me pull this up. Okay. So, U.S. District Judge ruled that former cameraman Emilio Garcia's hostile work environment claims against Megan Thee Stallion can proceed to trial. So let's look at this here. A federal judge has delivered a significant blow to Grammy Award-winning rapper Megan Thee Stallion's legal defense, ruling that workplace harassment allegations filed by her former cameraman will proceed to trial. The decision marks a pivotal moment in what has become one of the music industry's most contentious employment disputes. So let's see. Emilio Garcia worked for her as a cameraman from 2018 to 2023. He filed this lawsuit in Los Angeles in 2024, presenting what he describes as a pattern of sexual misconduct, fat shaming, and workplace retaliation. The case centers on Garcia's claims that his sexual orientation made him a target for discriminatory treatment through his 5-year employment with the Houston-born rapper. The allegations paint a picture of a toxic work environment that ultimately became so intolerable that Garcia says it forced him to leave his position. The most salacious allegation involves a 2022 business trip to Ibiza, Spain, where Garcia claims he was trapped in a moving vehicle while Megan engaged in sexual activity with another woman. According to court documents, Garcia, who is gay, alleges that the experience left him completely uncomfortable and created what he describes as an unprofessional and triggering work environment. Okay, And I definitely want to say it doesn't matter your sexual orientation. They are not friends. She is his boss. And I hate how people try to act obtuse and ignorance when it comes to how one gender can do something and another gender can't. Because let me tell you, if this was a man, and we don't know if this happened, this is all allegedly. I'm just reading off of the document from the USA Herald. But if this did happen, if this was a man, he probably would have been locked up the same day it happened. Let's just be honest. This behavior cannot happen. Women cannot get away with things because they are a woman. And I myself am a woman, but I like to see things from both sides here. And it doesn't matter his sexual orientation. If it makes him uncomfortable, it makes him uncomfortable. This is not appropriate. Like, you do not want to go inside of work one day, go inside your boss's office and see him doing something and want you to stay in that. He gets up and locks the office door, right? Because he's in a moving vehicle. He can jump out of a moving vehicle, but he doesn't want to hurt himself in the process. So let's just say your boss gets up, locks the door, and continues his sexual acts. That will make you very uncomfortable. And in any event, that will be a major sexual harassment lawsuit for any company, right? So now with this case, there has been an update actually in this case. He also said, according to the lawsuit, his hours were cut, his salary was reduced, and he was ultimately terminated from his position. Perhaps most damaging to his career, Garcia claims he was blacklisted from future work in the entertainment industry as punishment for speaking out about his experience. Okay, and this is all what Garcia is saying. Okay, there has been an update in this case. So let me pull that up for you guys. Let me see what I want to go to. I want to go here. Okay. Let me see. Yes. Okay. So this is. Let me go to. All right. So okay. So this is the United States District Court, Southern District of New York. Emilio Garcia, an individual. The plaintiff, okay, against Rock Nation LLC, a Delaware business organization, Hot Girl Touring LLC, and so forth. Okay, this is the First Amendment complaint. Jury trial is demanded. Okay, so let's take a look at this update here. So based on, this is a case right here. If you want to pull it up on Pacer and get a closer look on all of the documents. Again, it is very expensive to get these transcripts, as well. So whatever transcripts I can find, I do find them so I can, bring you guys accurate information, as much as possible, as well as with any news articles as well, from reliable sources here. So moving forward, so further upon information and belief, some or all of the defendant entities are mere shell and sham entities without capital or assets, and were conceived, intended, and were used by a Wiener and the entities as a device to avoid liability and for the purposes of substituting a financially insolvent corporation, entity, or related subsidiary or parent company. So, are they alleging that they have shell companies? Let's see here. Plaintiff further alleges, upon information and belief, the defendant entities at all relevant times were the alter egos of each other, impede in their exists, and at all relevant times has existed a unity of ownership between the defendants such that any separateness has ceased to exist, and that the entities, owners, members, and use and continue to use, commingle, or restrict the assets for their own use without adequate consideration, and have withdrawn funds from these entities for its parent organizations, and Pete's use and or collusion, and at all times herein mentioned, were controlled, dominated, and operated by defendant entities, their owners, and Pete as their individual business and alter ego, and that the activities and business of defendants were and are carried out without the holding of proper directors or shareholders' meetings, commingled funds and accounts, improper insurance. No records or minutes of any material corporate proceedings were maintained, and defendants entered into misrepresented and sham transactions. Okay, people. So this sounds like, in my opinion, and what I am gathering, is that a lot of the subsidiaries and companies that she has, Rock Nation and Megan Thee Stallion, allegedly, in my opinion, are using them as shell companies to move money without detection to avoid paying certain things. Okay. Um, so this is what he is stating. Oh, so this lawsuit is actually getting deep. I wonder how that's gonna go there. Sounds like someone's hiding money. Okay. Now, the CEO of Rock Nation, remember we went over the CEO of Rock Nation, Desiree Perez, right? Is being sued by her daughter, Zimmery Hadley, right? For allegedly Baker acting her into a medical facility when she in turn does not use any drugs and does not have a mental illness. And she did this using company resources allegedly, right? So keep in mind, as these lawsuits are coming full circle, right? So now Desiree Perez was depositioned because allegedly she did try to get out of the deposition, saying she has no dealings with Megan's business. Megan wants to pay him. She doesn't want any parts. But in turn, they was actually able to get Desiree Perez deposition. So let's take a look here. This is Desiree Perez, the CEO of Rock Nation. Okay, let's see what was said. This was a Zoom deposition. Okay. Okay. Miss Manillo, also vague. Make sure this is the first line. Okay, cool. Answer, I'm not sure I understand your question. Okay. I guess tell me what services Rock Nation was providing to Miss Pete generally at the time that you became the CEO. Okay. Miss Pete, Megan Thee Stallion. Answer, I don't remember when Megan came on, so I'm not sure if you're making a relationship to those to the time frame. Is there a better way for you to ask me what you're asking? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. Sure, I'll come back. What is your understanding of the services that Rock Nation provides to Miss Pete now? We're her management company. Okay. This is interesting. We're her management company. I thought she only signed. Okay, well, I thought she just signed a distribution deal with them to distribute her records. Okay, so they manage her. Okay, well, that makes sense. She can have management. Okay, let's see. Let's move along. What does that mean? What do you manage? We manage. Sorry, that's okay. Answer, and this is Desiree Perez. We manage her business, manage her as an artist. Okay. And is it just a general blanket statement that you just manage her as an artist and whatever comes up, you guys step in and manage? Is that the idea? Okay, objection. Okay. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking because you just said a bunch of things. Okay, they're clarifying. Question, I don't know what management means. I don't do your business. Okay, I don't know what that means. Can you tell me? Explain it to me, someone from the outside looking in, what management means from your perspective. Okay, Mr. Steve, I just want to clarify, Ron. Do you mean with respect to Miss Pete, or are you talking about Rock Nation's management business in general? I don't think the latter is relevant. I think the former is fine. Okay, so this is with regards to Miss Pete. What does management mean from your perspective with regards to what Rock Nation does for Miss Pete? Objection, form. Go ahead. We manage Megan as an artist, and so anything that touches anything regarding business, we are involved in every aspect. Okay. We negotiate contracts. We speak to directors on her behalf. Anything that has to do with business, we're involved in. Okay, question. Do you refer any vendors to Miss Pete for her to use? Objection form. Okay. Question. For some reason there's security is unavailable that she normally uses. Do you step in and go, hey, I know security that could help us, and then you refer her, which is Megan Thee Stallion, or someone on your team does? Yeah. We can give her a reference to a vendor in that respect, the way you just described. Right, okay. So let's just get into the documents. Mr. Zambrano, counsel, I'm sharing like we've been doing, correct? Versus you guys controlling on your end. Yes. Mr. C, yes, please share. Okay, these are the lawyers talking. Mr. Zambrano, great. Let's start doing that. Okay. Exactly what you mean by refer. Well, you and I were able to talk about referring a vendor means before about 2 minutes ago. So I don't know what the difference is, but I'll try my best. Did you suggest to Ms. Pete or someone on Ms. Pete's team to start utilizing Rockefeller Capital to help Ms. Pete pay her invoices? So that we're clear, I am going to want to clarify on what you're asking me. And I'm not going to assume that what you asked me prior or that what you said to me prior is what you're referring to when you're asking me a question. So I apologize if I'm asking you to clarify what you mean with regard to refer. Okay. I understand, you don't want people to trip you up legally or whatever, because in a legal context, words do have different meanings that you want to cover all of your bases. But I feel like she knows what she is being asked, in my opinion. So let's just see what goes on here. Okay, as far as suggest, which is the language that I'm hearing you say now, you're saying, did I suggest? And the answer is no. Do you know if someone else at Rock Nation suggested, referred, recommended Rockefeller Capital to Ms. Pete for Ms. Pete to pay her invoices? No. So are you aware of how Ms. Pete's invoices were being paid prior to Rockefeller Capital coming in? Coming in as accountants, coming in as yes. Who was that? BDO. And do you know what the acronym stands for? I don't. Okay. Do you have any knowledge as to why Ms. Pete moved on to Rockefeller? The person that was handling Megan's accounting left the firm. Left the BDO firm? Yes. Did they leave BDO to go to Rockefeller? No. Now going to the substance of this actual document. And as these emails, most of these emails, they move chronologically in time down to up. So there's an email where Mr. Riddle lets you know about these up here. It goes accounting. Is that Rockefeller Accounting or someone at Rock Nation Accounting? All accounting for Megan is done at Rockefeller. With regards to, you also mentioned you were told by people. Do you remember who told you that someone else was doing the work that Mr. Garcia was billing, at least through this correspondence? Answer. Could be someone at the accounting firm, because they were keeping track of the payments. Could be. I don't remember the exact person. This was 3 years ago. I don't know. Could it? Was it Mr. Sidoti? I don't remember. Fair enough. With regards to if there is nobody else listed as a videographer for the July 2022 timeframe, do you believe Mr. Garcia should have been paid for being on call? Objection form. I mean, you're giving me a hypothesis. I would probably need a lot. Okay. Explains why you wrote these particular words, or you've already told me everything that has to do with these particular words. Answer. These particular words are all related to his invoicing, his disorganization, cumulative of everything that I've testified today with regard to his billing and his revising invoices in the wrong leg on the tour, and just not catching on to how things work with regard to sending your bills is what this is in response to. And it's in response to my reference. When you say Emilio Garcia to me, that's what I think of. All right. Are you aware of why Mr. Garcia stopped providing services to Ms. Pete? Mr. C, objection form. I mean, he has a right to stop providing service. He's an at-will contractor. Just like you can stop providing services to Mr. Garcia, right? It's just he stopped providing services. Are you aware whether Ms. Pete decided to no longer ask Mr. Garcia to provide those services? Are you aware of that one way or the other? I think what I'm aware of with regard to him not working, it think it's just he just stopped working. He just wasn't asked to come to the next whatever event, and he never came back to the next event, and it was a falling out with their relationship as friends. Did Miss Pete relate to you that there was a falling out of the relationship as friends? Did you learn that from Miss Pete? What I learned from Miss Pete was that she was very hurt. I think she held Mr. Garcia in high regard and trusted him, and was someone that, came with her from her beginnings, right? And she was trying to hold on to those beginnings, and someone that she thought was a friend, and she was, given an opportunity to. Here's that friend word again. And then she found out that he was bad mouthing her, and she was upset, and she told me that she was upset over that. I knew about that. Okay, they're going off the record. Okay. All right, so here's this word, friend. And the word of the day, I believe, should be accountability. Because again, as we saw with the basis of the lawsuit, even if you consider yourself to be friends with someone, that would make it honestly different from whatever perspective you look at it, right? You still violated his boundary. You cannot be sexual with somebody in front of someone that is considered to be your employee. No matter how hurt you was that he left, what are you hurt about? You're trusting him, but you're violating him. You're violating his human rights. And that's not okay. You're throwing this friend word around. Just like how you said you stopped being friends with Kelsey because she went to see Tori after he allegedly shot you. Well, when Kelsey got sick and went back home to Texas for COVID, you started sleeping with him. You never took accountability for that, at the roles you play in the things that happen. And we're going to wrap this around here because there's another lawsuit. And before we get into that, I want to get into the things with Desiree Perez, because it seems as if she's stating she has no knowledge on Megan's finances that is handled by the accounting firm Rockefeller. Okay. So as we saw in the Megan versus Milagro lawsuit, based on the reportings that came about, it was alleged that Desiree Perez was sent a text from Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion stated, this is loosely worded, she stated allegedly, "Do you still have the file on Milagro? I want to sue her." Desiree Perez said, "I think so." So they're keeping files on people, and that text was sent in 2022, okay? Moving forward, they're talking about managing, right? So they're talking about how they manage Megan Thee Stallion, right? So Emilio states in his lawsuit, he actually stated that there were times when he spoke with Desiree Perez in regards to what was going on with his pay, as regards to he wasn't informed on what site to go to and things of that nature that came up, which is why she was to be deposed, because she's saying she did not have knowledge, when in fact he did say she did, because he reached out to her. And moving along, I wonder, do artists that are independent have managers? I mean, I would assume so, right? Because you still have to take care of your business. I'm gonna put a pin in that. I'm gonna look up some more things about that. Okay, let's get into. So there was the case that just happened with Milagro, Grams, Milagro Cooper, and Megan Thee Stallion, right? So we talked about that. Megan Thee Stallion actually sued Milagro for defamation, intention of emotional distress, and also the AI X tape or whatever. So moving forward, And here's what I want to actually get into first before we get into this, because well, let's just read this. There has actually been an update in this case, right? Let me plug in my computer, y'all. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to get into this statement, right? Because Megan Thee Stallion, after the case was done, the defamation was thrown out because the jury declared Milagro Grams to be a media defendant, okay? She showed her contracts, she showed her LLCs, handling her business or whatever. So she was deemed a media in the way that she handles herself, on the internet as far as with her content. So moving forward, a media defendant is supposed to be sent a cease and desist at least 5 days prior to being sued, right? They did not do that. Now, here's my thing. So the defamation was thrown out, right? The defamation was thrown out. And it actually does not matter how something is thrown out. In the court of law, if something is thrown out, it is not to be used. It is inadmissible in court. You cannot use it. It's done. It's over with. Just like we see in cases all the time. Let's just say someone didn't bring evidence in through the proper channels. It does not matter if you have it. If it is not submitted in through the proper channels at the proper time frame, it can be dismissed. It can't be used. Like they can only get mad at themselves if they're incompetent. These are Rock Nation lawyers. These lawyers are paid millions of dollars. How do you not know to send someone that does content that you are following since 2022 to send a cease and desist? How incompetent are these lawyers? You want to know why they're incompetent? Because they're not in the field. Let me tell you something. You can work for the biggest law firm in the world. You can work for the biggest corporation in the world, right? But if you're not pounding that pavement, see these lawyers that Milagro had, they're in the streets. They're fighting tooth and nail for their clients, right? These corporate lawyers, they don't be in the streets because they like to throw stuff out. They like to throw stuff out before it even goes to trial. Now they have to stand in the paint. That's why these Rock Nation lawyers couldn't even do something as simple as sending out a cease and desist. They underestimated Milagro and their team, and we all know never, 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 never underestimate your opponent, and that's exactly what they did. So let's see what update is going on in this case here. Okay, so this is after the defamation is thrown out. This update was yesterday. So plaintiff Megan P moves pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 65 and section of these Florida statutes for the entry of a permanent injunction against defendant Milagro Cooper. A permanent injunction. Okay, let's see what that's going to be. Defendant's retaliatory cyberstalking campaign has caused substantial emotional distress to Ms. Pete, okay, and put her in a reasonable fear for her physical safety and health. Okay. How? So, let me get this straight. You were allegedly shot 5 times by Tory Lanez, has not stepped foot in a mental health facility. You sued Milagro Grams for all of these things, and you end up going to a retreat for a week that costs 240,000 buckaroos. Okay. The way you act and your attitude, in my opinion, is nasty. That is why Drake has talked about you. That's why Nicki has talked about you. That's why Kelsey is no longer your friend because of how you treated her. That's why Emilio is suing you. It seems like there's a pattern here. So you're fearing for your physical safety and health from Milagro Grams, a blogger with hundreds of thousands of followers, but not these celebrities, but not the man that shot you. You can't prove that you have been going to therapy, but you only went to a wellness retreat for $240,000 for 1 week. You have not, it has been shown in court through documents, you have not even blocked Milagro on social media because, quote unquote, you wanted her to see you win. Okay? It also came out that your friend T. Ferris, who also sent the money for you to go to the retreat, right? Whose name is also on the deed of the house that you live in, okay? Because that came out in court for your Milagro trial, right? So T. Ferris has been constantly showing you the things that Milagro has been posting. Has he been showing you the things, or have you been looking? In my opinion, I think you're on social media looking. Okay. So moving along here. Okay, a permanent injunction against cyber stalking is warranted in light of defendants' repeated attempts to interfere with the administration of cyber stalking. Okay, it came out in court that Milagro has you blocked. How is she cyber stalking you and she has you blocked, but it came out in court you don't have her blocked? How does that make sense? Okay. Defendants' repeated attempts to interfere with the administration of justice in relation to Ms. Pete's reporting of and proceedings arising from a violent assault on Ms. Pete. Ms. Pete's reporting of and proceedings arising from a violent assault on Ms. Pete. Defendants' willingness to retaliate against those who engage in essential speech related to the reporting of crimes and torturous conduct. Okay, I don't want this to be here. Let me see. Blah, blah, blah. Continued harassing conduct since the verdict in this case, which demonstrates that she lacks respect for the rule of law. Oh, okay. So she lacks respect for the rule of law. But you actually violated the gag order 2 times when you spoke to the media, and they did not put any adverse actions on you for that. But if it was Milagro, please. Moving along. Where was I, y'all? Okay, let me find out where I stopped at. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. She lacks respect for the rule of law and that only injunctive relief will be effective in this context where a defendant otherwise claims to be judgment proof. An injunction is essential to protect Ms. Pete against the threat of harm posed to her safety and well-being by defendant's conduct and will be consistent with the jury's finding of defamation per se. This is inadmissible in court. Again, it doesn't matter how something was thrown out. It cannot be used because she was deemed a media defendant. Rock Nation was incompetent and they did not serve a cease and desist for a media defendant. Therefore, this defamation does not persist. So we have intention infliction of emotional distress and promotion of an altered sexual depiction in violation of Florida statutes. An injunction is further warranted because the conduct engaged by the defendant serves no legitimate purpose. As such, forms of cyber stalking and victim and witness retaliation are barred under the state and federal criminal laws. Okay, so we're going to see what the judge has to say about this permanent injunction here. We're actually going to, let me take a look here and see what else. There's actually another lawsuit against Rock Nation and Megan Thee Stallion. So what I'm going to do, guys, okay? I'm going to take another commercial break, guys. Please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you guys content. And actually let me know in the chat any other topics you guys would like to discuss so I can take care of you. Give me one moment. I'm going to pull up that other lawsuit for you guys.
Hey guys, if you like what you're hearing, be sure to like and subscribe for more updates to come with us behind the headlines. You can also cash out RJanae148 if you want to support. See you soon.
All right, guys. So, what DJ Khaled said, another one. Is another one, people. Okay. So here we have a couple people here. Okay, let's see. Janelle De La Cruz, an individual, she's the plaintiff, versus Rock Nation LLC, a Delaware limited liability company. The complaint is for breach of contract, common law, misappropriation of likeness, false endorsement, false advertising under the Lanham Act. Demand for jury trial. They want a jury trial. They are not playing around. Let's take a look here. The plaintiff alleges on information and belief as follows. Nature of action. And guys, if you want to pull up the cases on Pacer, this is a case here. These are the documents and the date filed here. If you want to get a closer eyes on that. But moving along here, the nature of action. This case presents a clear case of liability for the unlawful use of plaintiff's likeness in advertising by defendant Rock Nation LLC. This court has original jurisdiction over plaintiff's federal law claim. Pursuant to this court has supplemental jurisdiction over plaintiff's state law claims. Pursuant to, okay. In the alternative and independently, original jurisdiction is also proper in this court because complete diversity exists. Okay. The amount of recovery sought by plaintiff exceeds the jurisdictional amount of $75,000, and there is complete diversity among the parties. Okay. Plaintiff is a citizen of New York. Okay, let's get to business here. What is going on with this lawsuit? Okay, plaintiff is seeking actual statutory and punitive damages, including emotional distress damages, disgorgement of profits, and equitable relief. Additionally, plaintiff is seeking reasonable attorney's fees and costs. Okay. This is all. Plaintiff is an individual who resides in Kings County, New York. Okay. This is just the basis of the lawsuit before they delve into what was going on. Plaintiff is further informed and believes and based thereon alleges that defendant and its managers, okay, so that's Megan Stallion and Rock Nation and managers, all that good stuff, at all times herein alleged were the agents, employees, servants, and joint ventures and are co-conspirators of each of the other. And that in doing the things herein alleged were acting in the course and scope of such agency, employment, joint venture, and or conspiracy. And again, this is all alleged. This is a lawsuit we're going over. Moving forward, plaintiff is further informed and believes and based. Okay, I think we read that part. Okay. Plaintiff is a professional model whose likeness has been featured in advertisements throughout the world. The use of plaintiff's likeness has significant commercial value. Okay. Rock Nation claims to be the world's preeminent entertainment company. Rock Nation describes itself as a full-service organization supporting our diverse roster of talent via artist management, music publishing, touring, production, strategic brand development, and beyond. On information and belief, Rock Nation is a subsidiary of Live Nation Entertainment. Okay. Remember, Live Nation has a lawsuit. Let's write this down. Okay. Live Nation has a lawsuit in regards to ticket sales. I'm going to take a look at that. This is alleging that Rock Nation is a subsidiary of Live Nation. I'm going to look at that. Okay. We're going to take a look at that. Okay. Rock Nation's total annual revenue is not publicly disclosed. Okay. Yeah, it's not publicly disclosed. They may be a privately traded company. Okay, but estimates vary from 95 million to 233.6 million or even 287.3 million. Well, those are big gaps. That's a big gap between 95 million to 287 million. Interesting. Okay. Depending on the source and what is included, Roc Nation communicated with plaintiff's modeling agency, Ford Models, that it was confirming plaintiff to be photographed for Roc Nation's advertising and marketing campaign for Megan Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer Swimwear. On April 30, 2025, plaintiff was photographed by Roc Nation. Roc Nation promised to pay plaintiff $5,000 in wages for her work at the photo shoot, plus an agency fee to be paid to Ford Models. Here's my thing. Roc Nation's total annual revenue is between 95 million and 287 million. They have all these lawsuits. We're going to have to follow the money, people. We're going to have to follow this money. There's too many lawsuits going on right now with them. Okay. So, Roc Nation's advertising and marketing campaign for Megan Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer Swimwear. Okay. It was Hot Girl Walmart Swimwear. It was sold in Walmart. Okay. On April 30th, 2025, plaintiff was photographed by Roc Nation. Roc Nation promised to pay plaintiff $5,000 in wages for her work at the photo shoot, plus an agency fee to be paid to Ford Models. Plaintiff granted consent to Roc Nation for a limited use of her likeness in Roc Nation's advertising campaign. Okay, so she only granted them limited use, so you can only use it for this reason. The consent to use plaintiff's likeness was limited to social media. Social media, okay. Defendant knew that it did not have the consent to use plaintiff's likeness beyond social media. Well, what was they using it for? Defendant thereafter used plaintiff's likeness on physical public billboards, including a billboard in Hollywood, California, targeting California consumers, and similar billboards in at least 3 other cities in the United States outside of California. Okay, so billboards in Hollywood, California, and similar billboards in 3 other cities in the United States. Defendant used plaintiff's likeness without her consent as a brand representative, targeting residents in California, the United States, and the world. On or around August 12, 2025, on behalf of plaintiff, Ford Models sent Roc Nation an email. Okay, so the plaintiff, didn't send this demand letter. Ford Models, her modeling agency, sent Roc Nation an email demanding Roc Nation immediately cease and desist the unauthorized use of plaintiff's likeness and demanding payment from Roc Nation for its past and ongoing unauthorized and illegal usage of plaintiff's likeness. On information and belief, Roc Nation has not complied with the demands. Well, I don't get it. Like, if you know you were just supposed to use her likeness on social media and you were putting her on billboards, okay, the first billboard, the second billboard, but the third billboard, y'all don't pay her modeling agency or her for using her likeness? Is this how y'all do business? But again, see, we got to follow the money because maybe they didn't have it because of all these lawsuits, people. We're going to follow this money. Okay, moving along. So, first cause of action, breach of contract against Roc Nation. All previous allegations are realleged and incorporated herein by reference. Plaintiff and defendant entered into a valid and binding contract in the form of plaintiff providing consent to Roc Nation for the limited use of plaintiff's likeness in Roc Nation's advertising. Plaintiff performed or substantially all of the significant things that the contract required plaintiff to do or was excused from such performance. Namely, plaintiff provided her services and was photographed by Roc Nation. Defendant breached the contract by using plaintiff's likeness beyond the scope of contractual consent. Plaintiff has been damaged as a direct and proximate result of defendant's conduct and an amount to be determined. Okay, we're going to get into the second cause of action here. Common law misappropriation of likeness. Give me 1 second, guys. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button and subscribing so I can give you guys all the juicy content that you like. Give me 1 second. Okay. All previous allegations are realleged and incorporated herein by reference. Defendant used plaintiff's likeness to promote, market, and advertise defendant's products without plaintiff's authorization or consent. Defendant specifically made a conscious, deliberate decision to print, reprint, use, reuse, publish, and republish plaintiff's likeness in marketing, promotional, and advertising materials within the past 2 years without plaintiff's consent. Within the past 2 years. Oh, okay. Defendant did not have a license, authorization, or consent to use plaintiff's likeness in the manner it uses plaintiff's likeness, i.e. billboards. Defendant's knowing use of plaintiff's likeness to promote defendant's product was to defendant's commercial or other benefit. As a proximate result of the foregoing, plaintiff has suffered actual damages, including emotional distress damages, and an amount to be proved at trial. In addition, defendant has been unjustly enriched by its use of plaintiff's likeness. Therefore, plaintiff seeks disgorgement of profits and or imposition of a constructive trust on the monies obtained by defendant from the unauthorized use. Defendant knew that it needed plaintiff's consent to use plaintiff's likeness for commercial purposes. Roc Nation had a limited license to use plaintiff's likeness from April 30, 2025 photo shoot. Defendant knew that it did not have plaintiff's consent and did not make any attempt to notify plaintiff that plaintiff's likeness would be used without plaintiff's consent. Instead, defendant intentionally used plaintiff's likeness without plaintiff's consent, knowing defendant did not have plaintiff's consent. As such, defendant's conduct as described herein was done with a conscious disregard of plaintiff's rights, with the intent to vex, annoy, and or harass plaintiff, and to unjustly profit from the use of plaintiff's likeness. Such conduct was unauthorized and constitutes oppression, fraud, and or malice, entitling plaintiff to an award of punitive damages in an amount appropriate to punish or set an example of defendant in the amount to be determined at trial. Okay, we're at the third cause of action, false endorsement, false advertising under the Lanham Act against Roc Nation. Okay. All previous allegations are realleged and incorporated herein by reference. Defendant used plaintiff's likeness to promote, market, and advertise defendant's products without plaintiff's authorization or consent. Defendant specifically made a conscious, deliberate decision to print, reprint, use, reuse, publish, and republish plaintiff's likeness in marketing, promotional, and advertising materials within the past 2 years without plaintiff's consent. I did that already. Okay, we said that already. Defendant's use of plaintiff's likeness beyond the agreed scope falsely implies plaintiff's endorsement of or affiliation with Roc Nation, misleading consumers in violation of this section of the Lanham Act. Okay. More specifically, defendant made a false statement of fact that plaintiff consented to. Oh, okay. More specifically, the defendant made a false statement of fact. It's no fun when the rabbit got the gun, ain't it? Didn't Megan allege that Milagro made a false statement of fact? But Milagro did make a false statement of fact. In fact, she actually, these were very important questions that she asked. And she asked it based on her opinion, and she formed it in a question because, again, your integrity has constantly been under attack because of the constant lies that have been told, in my opinion. Right? So again, you can't say that you don't like when it's done to you, but go ahead and do it to other people. And that's the whole thing. And this is where everything is coming full circle, because you do things to people, and then when it's done to you or your company, you don't like it, do you? Moving along here. The plaintiff consented to and endorsed defendant's advertisements of plaintiff's likeness on billboards and a commercial advertisement about defendant's own or another products. Here's my thing. Okay. Now, if Roc Nation didn't want anything to do with the Emilio lawsuit because Emilio was Megan's cameraman, right? And they said Emilio was paid from Rockefeller, the accountant firm Rockefeller. So Desiree Perez did not want to do the deposition because she did not handle the finances. This lawsuit has Roc Nation on it, and they went into a contract about payment. But isn't Desiree Perez the CEO of Roc Nation? So is Rockefeller on here? Or is it, let me see. Janelle was hired to do a job. Emilio was hired to do a job. But Janelle is just suing Roc Nation. She's not suing Rockefeller, who Desiree Perez said in the deposition was handling the payment from Emilio. More digging. Let me look into that. Okay, where we stop at, y'all? Let me see. We're on the third cause of action. Ooh. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, the statement actually deceived or has a tendency to deceive a substantial segment of its audience. The deception is material in that it is likely to influence the purchasing decision. Defendant caused the false statement to enter interstate commerce, and plaintiff has been or is likely to be injured as a result of the false statement by a lessening of the goodwill associated with plaintiff's product. What? Plaintiff has been or is likely to be injured as a result of the false statement by a lessening of the goodwill associated with plaintiff's product, i.e. plaintiff's likeness. Okay. As a proximate result of the foregoing, plaintiff has suffered actual damages, including emotional distress damages, and an amount to be proved at trial. In addition, defendant has been unjustly enriched by its use of plaintiff's likeness. Therefore, plaintiff seeks disgorgement of profits and or imposition of a constructive trust on the monies obtained by defendant from the unauthorized use. In my opinion, they washing that money, but we gonna dig into those finances. Plaintiff seeks an award of attorney's fees and costs pursuant to this code here. Okay, and this is the prayer for relief. Demands a jury trial. So we're gonna see what's going on with that, y'all. Let me see something here. Give me 1 second. Let me see where we at with it. Let me see. All right, y'all. And I actually covered all of my notes I had for you guys today. Be sure to, like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to hear down in the comments. If you leave a comment, I'll stop briefly, of course, while I'm doing my lives, and read your comment out to you. You guys have a good night. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Bye.